been a long time, I don't even know. Guess you fell in love when we tried to take it slow. I can't even tell you by the way we touch. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, like, I've got a slightly heavier foot now because of my car.
A slightly heavier foot.
Yeah.
A slightly more Mugo and Pals. Ha ha ha.
Omoi ashi.
Yeah. New England in general, but particularly Massachusetts, is obsessed with Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know if this is true everywhere, but at least in like New York, Dunkin' Donuts is kind of like your last resort. Like you don't go there. Dunkin' Donuts is like for homeless people. But I remember in high school, like everyone in my high school would go to Dunkin' Donuts before school or like during their like lunch break or their study hall breaks for the upperclassmen. Like you were allowed to leave campus or whatever. So they would always come back with like a huge iced coffee. And that was just like the thing to do. That's like what all the popular kids did. That's like what you do when you have a car. Like, ooh, you know, Dunkin' Donuts is very ingrained into the culture of high schoolers in this state. And I also believe just, again, New England in general. But not all Dunkin' Donuts are created equal. So for every like few blocks you drive here, you will find a Dunkin' Donuts. There's actually not that many Starbucks here because Dunkin' Donuts is just more popular. For some reason, they just love it here. I believe Dunkin' Donuts actually did start in Boston, if I'm correct. So maybe that's part of the reason. But sadly, you would think that for a place that is so obsessed with Dunkin' Donuts, the quality would be really good. Now, I will say though that it's very consistent. Like what people go to Dunkin' Donuts for is the consistency in the coffee. Like no matter where you go, however you order it, at least within the United States, your coffee will always taste the same. And even my parents, my mom said when she first like immigrated here, she was like in her 20s and she said, I have never had such delicious coffee in my entire life. And to think that, you know, Dunkin' Donuts coffee was like the coffee that like made her fall head over heels is interesting. And at that in Boston. So Dunkin' Donuts is a big deal here and people take it pretty seriously. But I am very lucky because I happen to live nearby one of the only 2 Dunkin' Donuts in the whole New England area. How many states is that? I don't know. I feel really stupid all of a sudden. How many New England states are there? Like 7? 8? I live near one of the only 2 Dunkin' Donuts in the whole New England area that actually makes their donuts on site. Now, I don't know, like, doesn't that just sound a little too low of a number? Like 2 in all of the states that are obsessed with Dunkin' Donuts, only 2 of them make their donuts on site. I can already name like 4 that are within like a 5-10 minute driving distance from my house. Luckily, you know, one of those is one of the only Dunkin' Donuts who make their donuts on site, and they're freaking delicious, let me tell you. I remember when I first I think this was like when I first began college in New York. And you know, like at that age, I feel like high school is like when like the first time you really like start going out and like getting food with your friends. Even if at that, because I know in high school I was very, you know, I was very quiet. I was very antisocial. I had like one best friend. You know, I like didn't go out to eat with my friends. I didn't like go to the center to get like coffee during my study break. During my study hall, I just studied. But yeah, so I remember in New York when I would get Dunkin' Donuts as like a freshman in college for the first time, I was like, huh, like the coffee was good, but then the food, like the donuts, they were like mediocre, and I was like, okay. And that's because I didn't know I was so blessed to live near the Dunkin' Donuts here that makes their donuts fresh every day, because that's the Dunkin' Donuts that I would usually go to anyway when I was in high school and stuff. So I did some research and then I found out that that was the case, and I was like, wow, I'm so lucky. But also, why is it like that? You would think that like a donut chain would at least have a little bit, like, they would care a little more about like the freshness of their donuts and at least have more locations that, you know, make their donuts on site. Yeah, it saddens me because I've been like conducting an experiment. Not an experiment. This is just me like being a fat ass. But my favorite thing to get from Dunkin Donuts, but specifically only the Dunkin Donuts that I live near that makes their donuts fresh, is their apple fritter. It is so good. It is delicious. It's huge too, because that was the first apple fritter I've ever had in my life. I've heard good things about the Dunkin Donuts apple fritter because the girlfriend of a YouTuber that I watched, she never stops talking about Dunkin Donuts apple fritters. That made me really curious, and I was like, okay, so I got one from the good Dunkin Donuts that I live by, and it was so good. It was delicious. I was actually like, it was so good, and it's huge. It's like the size of my face, and I was like, wow, this is freaking delicious. And then I went to a different Dunkin Donuts one day because I was coming home, and the nice one wasn't on my way back home, and I was like, okay, I'll try this out. And I got an apple fritter from a different location, you know, one that doesn't make their donuts on site, but you know, it was still good. It still tasted good, but it was a lot smaller and it looked a little different from the really good one. And then today I went to a different Dunkin Donuts and I tried their apple fritter, and it was like the apple fritter from that second Dunkin Donuts. It was still good, but it was definitely smaller and it looked like that one, whereas both of those didn't really look like the first original one I had, you know, from the place that makes them everyday fresh. So I'm really sad because I'm like, wow, if I want that caliber of apple fritter, I can only ever go to that location. But, you know, I don't live here. Like, I mean, this is my room and I live here. This is like my parents' house. But like, I'm not here very often. I just come for vacations. I would come for vacations when I was still in college because that's what you do as a college kid. But now that I'm an adult, this is actually probably my last time like living in my parents' house. But regardless, like, it just makes me sad because that Dunkin Donuts is here and I will not have access to that magnificent apple fritter. Funny story about this whole apple fritter thing. Another reason why I was compelled to try it is because me and my boyfriend, we call each other all sorts of names, right? This is stupid. But as of recently, one of the things we've been calling each other is a fritter. And then we looked it up one day because I was like, wait, what exactly is a fritter? I knew the term like apple fritter was like a thing, but I didn't know what they looked like. Because everyone knows like what a muffin looks like. Everyone knows what like a bagel looks like, but I was like, what does a fritter look like? I don't know. And then I was getting confused also. I was talking to my boyfriend about this and he was saying there's an apple turnover too. And I was like, yeah, there's an apple turnover and there's an apple fritter. I know what an apple turnover looks like. Turnovers in general are like those like triangular, like folded pastry things. What the heck is a fritter, right? So I look it up and apple fritters, this is another reason why they're so underrated. You do a search on Google, some images. They don't look all that appetizing. I don't know if that's just my opinion, but they just kind of look like fried lumps of, you know, and apparently some apple fritters aren't filled. So the thing is about the Dunkin Donuts apple fritters, they should sponsor me. I'm like, so they're filled, right? They're filled with like that apple pie filling, like that gooey, sweet, like apple, cinnamony filling. So it's like a donut that's fried, obviously, and like covered in sugar, and the inside is like that like nice jelly wet consistency. That sounds gross, but it's really good. It's like a jelly donut, but apple pie flavored. we looked it up and it was like, okay, apple fritter versus apple turnover. Okay, this is the difference. And then we like to call each other like stupid names. Like we will endearingly insult each other with insults that are not offensive at all. So for example, we'll be like, oh, you freaking apple fritter. Or he'll call me an egg. So he'll be like, you're just an egg. You're just an egg. Stuff like that. So yeah, this whole fritter business is just, that was like the initial thing. Like him calling me a freaking fritter. And then that led to apple fritter. And then I think I searched it up on YouTube before. And that's how I came across that YouTuber whose girlfriend really likes apple fritters, specifically the Dunkin Donuts Apple Fritters. And that led me to my Dunkin Donuts excursions, like trying out all the different apple fritters. And when I learned that they were not all created equal, I did my research and yeah. So I don't know what the point of this is. TLDR, I really like apple fritters and I have a problem. So yeah, honestly, I'm just gonna, talk about whatever comes to mind. Don't mind my messy desk, my messy bed. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll be back soon. We'll see. Bye.